republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, need a motion to approve the agenda. Moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Report, police department, looks like we got our report in our package.
Correct.
Next, chief, fire report. Your firefighter way back there.
So January we had 27 runs for the fire department. 8 fires, 1 of those in the village, and that was CO line. 22 medicals, 2 of those in the village. And we had 2 structure fires, 1 assist to Lapeer, 1 assist to Dryden, down wire, 4 false alarms, and the CO alarm that is in the village.
You. County Commissioner.
Thank you,
Sheriff's
President,
Department front row.
council members. Had my first full board meeting back on January 23rd, and I'll just hit some of the highlights for you. We did change the name of the Veterans Affairs Department to the Veterans Services Department. And we did that because Veterans Affairs, because of the national problems, has a bad connotation. So we changed the name. It really better describes what the department does, provide services to the veterans. We also took some items with regard to central dispatch. We approved waterproofing to repair a leak in the basement. We also want to replace the UPS batteries. Though they have a generator, it kicks in if Edison takes away power. If anybody, if you have a generator, you know it takes a while for it to get back up and going. Of course, all your computers have to be rebooted. Of course, the central dispatch, even that little bit of time can be very important. And so they have a battery backup that kicks in automatically. Don't have to use it very often, but they do wear out, so they need to be replaced. We also took some personnel decisions. We approved the hiring to fill a vacant corrections officer position at the jail, and we agreed to start them at step 3. And we did that because the individual the sheriff hired has over 25 years of experience in the Tuscola County Jail. In fact, he was the jail administrator up there. He ran for sheriff last year, didn't win, so obviously it wasn't a good situation for him to stay, so he came down to Lapeer, and it shows that because the people passed the law millage in 22, it allows the sheriff to offer competitive wages and brings a very experienced person down, even though he'll be low man in seniority, so he'll be working nights and holidays. We also agreed to post a health director position, as Kathy Haskins is retiring on March 28th. And we approved a one-time contribution to the MERS retirement system of $2 million. For years, we made extra contributions to the retirement system when there was money available. They hadn't done it since 2019. And we used to be like 90% funded. We're now in the mid-70s, which is still satisfactory according to MERS, but we're trying to make additional contributions, and so we had $2 million set aside for contributions, so we made that. Then last week we had a special board meeting that we had because the Children's Department of Community Mental Health is moving from Maple Grove School, where they rent space, and they're moving it to the health department. Those have been around a while, still referred to as the old state neutral building. And the 2 things we had to approve was they're in the lower level, which only had like 3 electrical outlets because it was used for storage. So had an electrician put in like 25 additional outlets, and also to pay to move all the stuff from Maple Grove to the health department. So that's it for tonight. Thank you very much.
Any questions for him? Planning commission.
Cancel the meeting because there's nothing on the agenda.
DDA, we couldn't hold our meeting because the only two that could run it were both in Florida. I don't know why they want to do a thing like that. But we did it, you know, we discussed a few little things, but we couldn't make any decisions, so we just kind of couldn't do nothing. Next is attorney report. It looks like everything might be down below.
Yes.
Okay. Council communications.
One thing I have is a reminder that next month is our annual budget hearing, set for 6:45 on the night of our regular scheduled meeting, so that will be March 17th. Just a reminder, I'll send out a reminder also.
Thank you. Well, looks like consent agenda is next, so I do need a motion to approve it.
I'll make that motion to approve it.
And moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes. Public time.
So I'll pick up right where we left off. Last meeting, I was reading out some numbers that I gathered of illegal parking and folks around the village out in their golf carts after the curfew, which is 30 minutes before sunset. So I'll start there because I think they're really important. Because again, sharp rise from 2023 to 2024, and it may be how I coded it for myself, it may be how I recorded it, but there's still something going on there. So illegal parking, I saw 17 instances of that in 2023. This past year it was 85. And I can tell you in the past month, just at this intersection alone, it was 21. So that's a significant amount. And the reason that matters is this is always a trucking route, So a 53-footer trying to get around that intersection. One of those nights there were 5 vehicles, they couldn't have made it. So it's your responsibility as the government to maintain that and to stop all this illegal parking. It's insane. Again, golf carts out after curfew in 2023, I saw about 26. That's just what I encountered. 2024, 81. And a lot of times those were people with little children on golf carts in the dark. Unauthorized vehicles on the rail trail. The previous year I saw 8. This past year, 40. Again, that's just what I encounter, so that means there were more than that. Underage drivers, again, that's a good thing that one went down from 8 to 4, because that's 10-year-olds driving vehicles. Child passengers in golf carts or off-road vehicles where they're not supposed to be, per the manufacturers of those vehicles. I saw 12 in 2023, 22 this past year, and again, that's just what I encounter. No helmets this year, or improper helmets, I saw 8 of those. And then other ordinances or law violations, so like going down roads where they're not supposed to be, or not using signals and that kind of thing, 33. That's what I saw. So that's significant. And again, in your packets this time is a complaint, again, about detailing each of the times this past month when I saw people parking illegally. It's a lot. It's a whole lot. And you guys should all be doing something about it. And on the topic of parking, about a year ago, I saw this come up in Metamora, Michigan gang. People were asking, the new Holden building was being built, knowing there are going to be tenants in there, going to be businesses in there. Where are those folks going to park? Because we have parking issues here, right? The parking gets full. And right now, those are during the day kind of businesses for the most part, but you never know when that's going to change. And Tina's response was, Holdens have their own parking lot. It's the one between the 2 village public lots, which they can also utilize. The Holdens have, 4 parking spots there for besides their real estate business? That's not even enough for, one of them is handicapped, and that's not even enough for the workers for businesses, right? So I think that is definitely something you all should think about as we move forward here and this village continues to grow. It is parking issues all the time. Still people parking in Harmer Park, right? Friday and Saturday night when I drive by, I expect to see them there, even though they shouldn't be per the deeds to that land. Again, it's your responsibility, and there are a lot of things that you all could be doing. ARPA money, You guys got a lot of money in ARPA money. It was brought up a few times, but when the county press did articles about where did the ARPA money go in our local villages and townships, you guys didn't contribute. It would have been good to say, hey, this is what we did with it. Just be transparent and say. It'd be very good to have a list of that. The audit report, you guys had that in on time, which is good, unlike Mayfield Township, which got theirs in very, very late. But there was an issue of concern on that audit report about segregation of duties here in the village. And I was wondering if that has been resolved. That a few individuals perform all the duties and prepare. Like, that's a risky thing, that it might not be segregated. So that'd be good to know. And then a lot of our townships and municipalities have been passing new policies about Earned Sick Time Act that just passed and goes into effect on February 21st. You have to have everything in order. And I think probably Tina would fall under that, Janet, and Nick would probably all fall under that. So I haven't heard anything about that from you all, and it'd be good to know. Thank you.
Next public time.
I don't know if this is for public time, but, I would like to know what's happening with the water up on Stock Road and, where are we at on that? I talked to Donna in Lansing and she doesn't even know what's going on. So, where are we at? And if there's a starting time, you know, we would like to see something happening.
I'll have a report as soon as you're.
It's on the agenda down below.
Okay, I just didn't know where, okay.
No other good time at this minute. Unfinished business.
Sure, the water extension project. One of the holdups for a significant number of months was, we said, look, we need some, what I call cushion money, which is some money that's available outside of insurance coverage and things like that. And so for about 4 or 5 months, the settlement group said they were working on a proposed escrow agreement, which they provided to me a week or two ago. And so I've given it to the village council, and I wanna go over it. They did propose, and this was significant, they did propose to put $250,000 into an escrow agreement. It would be deposited with a third party, probably a title company, to provide cushion money essentially for things that weren't being covered by them as we gave. The way it works right now is there's kind of layers of support. One layer is they're supposed to pay for our costs and expenses, and we let them know they're supposed to pay it. There's also potential for insurance coverage depending on the particular situation, but I believed it was important that we have more than that. So they talked about putting $250,000 into an escrow account with the title company. We would tender a certificate saying, look, we asked for them to pay for this, they didn't pay for it, we want to take the money out of the escrow fund. And then it gives them an opportunity to object to it. So then you say, well, what happens if they object to us taking the money out of the escrow fund? Well, in my experience, when a neutral third party has their hands on money and they're asked to turn it over, and there's a dispute between the two parties about whether or not it should be spent, they trigger what lawyers refer to as an interpleader procedure. All that means is they toss the money into court and you fight over it. So one concern I have about the procedure that they propose is it could be an automatic 2-year delay trying to fight to get our hands on this money. So it is money, but it is not quick money. And that would be expensive money. Now, what I did was, they basically said, and everybody pays their own attorney fees. And of course, the person with the most attorneys wins. So I did make some red line changes that I had proposed to send back to them, and that includes a provision that says, if we win and we prevail in the case, the village gets its attorney fees reimbursed. And I didn't make it reciprocal, meaning they don't get their attorney fees if they win. Because they have more lawyers than we do, and there's no way we can keep up with them if that's the way it's going to work. Now you may say, look, having an attorney fee reimbursement provision is just for the lawyers. That's not really true. The reason is, I get paid no matter what. You pay my bill no matter what. The issue is, will you get reimbursed by somebody for that. And so, that's one change that I made. They talked about putting $250,000 in, it would accumulate over time, and then they wanted a cap on it, so they put $500,000 as a cap, and if there was money generated over and above that, it would be siphoned back to them. I suggested an inflation cap. This thing could be run for 100 years, and who knows what 500,000 will be worth 50 to 70 years from now. So I suggested a 2% per year inflation riser, an escalator to bump that up every year. Our mathematics experts said over the last 50 to 70 years, 2% has been the average inflation. They also had a provision in there about when the easement agreement would terminate and the money would all go back to them. And they had a provision that said, if it is determined that under the EPA and the state of Michigan rules, they are now, the groundwater out there complies with their standards for drinking water, then there's no more escrow agreement. The problem with that is, I could easily see a situation where we have people that come along, they don't even bother putting in a well because they can tap into the new water line. Why would they put in a well when the health department won't let them put it in, and we have this water system with public water that's available to them? So what happens if all of a sudden you get a different administration, they change the rules, they loosen up the standards or whatever, and they say, guess what, we think you qualify, or we think your drinking water is drinkable now. So now you got people who are hooked into the line, and if you cut them off, they won't have any water. So what I said was, it isn't just if your groundwater complies, it's if you're no longer providing water to those people. Plus, I said it's gonna be 3 years after that point in time, because I can easily foresee that if you get to the point where they say, wait a minute, it complies with drinking water standards, we want to terminate the water agreement, you gotta get your own water, I can easily see the residents going out there and saying, filing suit in court, trying to get a preliminary injunction saying you can't turn the water off. And I can see a Lapeer County judge entering in an injunction not to let us do that. So I want this thing to go on at least 3 years after the drinking water does comply and they stop providing the water, because I can see the fur flying at that point, and I want to make sure that we have a cushion during those hard times as well. I also would make one tweak in the proposal you have in front of you. I'd make sure that it was an interest-bearing account, they have to put the money in. And I also said they had to put the money in the Lapeer County financial institution. There might as well be some money, or some local benefit to us having that cushion sitting around. They had all kinds of different investment options they wanted in there. I just wanted to simplify it and say you gotta have it in an interest-bearing financial account in a Lapeer County financial institution, or FDIC insured interest-bearing account, or an FDIC certificate of deposit, essentially. So we would keep it simple and not worry too much about that. But if you have to if it takes you 2 years to litigate with those people to get anything out of that fund, you need some other way to make sure you have quick money as well. And I can describe a scenario, which I'm not going to do in an open session, where we could easily be in litigation, no insurance coverage, and every dime of the litigation fees are coming out of our pocket, at least from the start. So we also need some quick upfront money that is unrestricted. So right now, the existing agreement says that before they can hook up, they have to pay us a $50,000 connection fee. My proposal is that be a $150,000 connection fee. So that we have upfront, quick money that we can draw on, so that we aren't exposed right from the get-go. We don't have to fight them over it, it's unrestricted money. And you say, man, Tim, it sounds like you're a ways apart now. Well, I want to give you a little bit of hope. Last month, we were over $400,000 apart in terms of our number picture with these folks. Right now, they're talking about putting $250,000 into an escrow fund, plus $50,000 for the connection fee, so that adds up to $300,000. My recommendation is the $250,000 escrow fee is okay, but I want a $150,000 connection fee, that's $400,000. That means we're only $100,000 apart. So, That's a lot closer than we were a month ago. There are, even if they agreed on everything we said, there are a few minor things in the original agreement that we still have to work through. They presented some proposed language in there that dealt primarily with, what if there's a glitch in the system and you gotta shut down for a little while, or there's a problem with the equipment and you gotta fix it, and you're taking longer than we want you to get it fixed, then they wanted the privilege of coming in and just start doing work on our system without talking to us. And I'm like, that is not gonna happen. When you have the Great Lakes water system, I'm sure that those folks don't have an arrangement that says, if you don't get it done within 24 hours, you get to come in and work on our system without talking to us. So, but both sides have agreed that if we work through the escrow agreement, that they think those things we can work out without too many serious problems. And so, but like I say, there's still a few loose ends. At this point, that's my recommendation moving forward, is to present that proposal to them in terms of the tweaks to the escrow agreement and to the proposed connection fee. And have a final agreement on the potable water agreement amendments. And we don't think that'll be a big holdup in the process, but they tend to move slower than we do because they have more bosses to have to answer to. They have a lot of different companies and they have meetings with probably rooms full of people. So it's not always easy for them to move quickly, but that's my proposal. I hope it moves things closer to the mark.
Yeah.
So you need a motion to.
Approve at least the proposed portions of the, or propose the, or excuse me.
So our attorney can move forward on it.
Yes.
Things rolling here.
I'm not hung up on getting a motion from the village council tonight, as long as there's no significant objections. I'll just present this to them. It's not, they can't just sign it, hand it back, and say we're all set, they know that. So, but I think we're,
Step in the right direction.
yeah, we're moving a lot closer, and it's a lot more encouraging movement than we've had in 6 to 8 months. So.
We're kind of dropping in their ear that we've kind of been talking about pulling the whole project because we're tired of them dragging it out and dragging it out.
When you get tied up with systems like we have at this point, that $150,000 isn't gonna go far.
No, right.
If you think about it, it's,
No.
look at what we spent on our wells so far.
Yeah.
That $150,000 is not gonna go far at all.
Well, and again, I'm just telling you this, my recommendation is you put that money in an interest-bearing account and you let it sit there.
Yeah.
That is your emergency war chest. And believe it or not, I don't think it'll take that many years before it builds up to a significant amount of money, and then you'll have less of a risk that if you have one bad crisis, a month out, that you're automatically gonna have to start paying money from important, village services. I just think it's important to have that cushion so that you're not running close to the edge.
Yes.
I think all council will take, go ahead and try to work it out the rest of the way.
We'll do that.
So no motion.
We wanna see this, we wanna see it off from our agenda,
Right.
not that.
Mr. Blair, does that help answer some of your questions?
Yeah, but in a timeline, you're working with these people, what are you talking, because we want this dig done and done soon,
I know. Unfortunately, they move with the speed of a glacier.
a glacier.
Yeah.
So, let's see, I'm 80 years old and I'll never see it happen.
My grandfather was 99. I hope you live long and prosper. But I understand.
I was gonna say about the same, but my mother's 91, so.
I understand your frustration, and it is going very slow, and I'm grateful. This was a pretty significant move on their part, and I think we're getting closer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Get on that for now. Unfinished business, new business. Triple member presentation, planning commission.
So I did receive just a short, quick email from Chris Lambert of the planning commission, verifying that yes, he was resigning from the planning commission, so.
Need a motion to accept the resignation.
Make a motion to accept his resignation.
A to accept Chris Lambert's resignation from the planning commission. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. North Oak Street generator.
Well, 3 years ago, I had gotten a previous, quote for the generator, and we were still waiting on some bits and pieces, it wasn't a full quote. I have since tried to reach out to the contractor to see if we could get updated quotes, and they have failed to give us updated quotes, so we reached out to another company, quote for the permanent generator to be in place down at North Oak Street, that's for the main lift station, grinder pump. Then we were not trying to take it when we do have power outage from there to like the well house, to the, to the water tower, going back and forth, because we only have one portable generator that's large enough to do some of the things. So we do have a quote, like I said, it's only one, and I did have one other one, but it was $8,000 less 3 years ago. So, this is from RHB Electric. Person wants to finally get done.
Do you expect a couple of the other quotes to come in, or?
Nobody else has reached back out, and I've been going for months. So, the one was a local company who I thought would have done good, but like I said, it's hard getting quotes from people sometimes. I'm trying to line up, because then we need to get the consumers lined up and everything like that, because it would be a gas permanent generator.
AT Electric.
This is through, like I said, RHB Electric, they're who, Curry Heating and Cooling, who does our heating and cooling now for us. That's who he suggested. Nick has reached out to a couple different people. I don't know what you guys want me to do.
I'd like to see some other bids, but how much, do we have to build a structure for this to sit in, or,
No, that is on a concrete base.
so we have to say support in concrete base?
Correct.
How big is it?
8 by 10. 8 by 10 is big enough.
Probably would be like this.
Front door open.
Tires and everything. And the one at the Lions Hall, they just put in that they put a bigger corral around it, way bigger than what you needed.
And this was putting it up by the actual DPW barn and running the, so it's not sitting right down there next to the rider hall.
How big a power supply do we have at the barn? Or is it?
No, there is, I just don't know the answer to that, sorry. So, okay, I'll keep getting more quotes.
We need to do
It's
something.
only gonna go up from here.
Who did the
So
one
I'm
at
gonna
the
go up
Lions
and do it.
Hall?
Just who did the one at the Lions Hall?
Basically, to JT Electric down in Oxford. Generac. I might have a phone number
Okay.
down there, I'll double check. Got buddy down there, so.
Yep.
I mean, it's a lot of money, but yet it's something we really need, and before we've had to
Right.
go rent another one. And when you rent one of them portable ones, when there's a power shortage, you
Right.
pay big time for it.
And it is one of the things that was in our capital improvement plan, the capital improvement plan that Roe had done up for us, and their quote was estimated to be 96,000 for the permanent generator, so, which they always go a little high, they have a contingency, without their 20% contingency, they were looking at 80,000, so.
Well, and that probably includes consumers and everything else. I would imagine.
I would imagine.
Full package.
Correct.
Where this doesn't
Correct.
include all that, correct?
Right,
It said on there, does not include,
Right,
the
doesn't
cost of
include the
bringing
cost of-
consumers
Yeah, yeah.
to the pad.
right.
If we can table up one more meeting, maybe we'll make it.
Yeah, I'd like to see, not that it's gonna change anything, but I'd like to see
Swiss Center Street.
It's across the road, they'd have to bore into our street.
Right.
They got upsides the pipe just to get the volume to run this thing.
Yeah. Long
But it
enough
would
to
be
hook
nice
up
to
our.
have consumers at the barn.
Right.
Then
And then we can get away with our propane,
Yes, we can get away with propane.
It'd be
Heat that we have up there.
but
Okay.
Good.
The deep water stuff.
well, we have some people here from F&B to go over the water study for us.
Yeah. Good evening, council. Thank you for having us. Brian Lee is unfortunately sick today. He called me. Didn't sound too good. So my name is Scott Hall. I'm one of the process engineers from our Grand Rapids office. I have Lauren Whitman here with me tonight. And we wanted to present kind of our preliminary findings here from the water study that you guys authorized for us back in the fall. To take a look at some of the water quality concerns and complaints with some of the reports of red water in a few select areas around the distribution system. So with that, Lauren's got some handouts here of kind of our preliminary findings on the report. We'll just kind of walk through the study that take a look at and some of our initial recommendations and kind of next steps for looking at this.
So I have just a little background on this system. Well, one was 220 gallon per minute rated capacity. That went down around 2022 due to a crack in the well casing. So since then, the primary well has been well number 3, which has a rated capacity of around 175 gallons per minute. And then there's also well 2 as a backup to that, but it does only have a rated capacity of 80 gallons per minute. So well 3 is the primary well right now. And those red water complaints seem to correlate with the running of well 3, since that has become the primary well. So looking at kind of historical water data, it looks like there was quite a bit of iron data throughout the past years. And looking at the iron levels, the maximum contamination limit for the secondary limit, so more looking at the aesthetics of the water, that's 0.3, and historically the water in the system has been under that 0.3 limit. And then we also looked at manganese, which there was not a ton of historical data on, so we worked with Brian from Police and Mangrove Operations just to get some more iron and manganese data. So that happened at the end of last year, kind of November, December time range. And it looked still like iron was pretty consistent under that secondary MCL, but the manganese in wells 2 and 3 were above the 0.05 secondary MCL, so it was closer to 0.07. So it's not necessarily like a compliance issue, but it does cause aesthetic concerns resulting in some red water. And then, so looking at the system as a whole, the 2 wells that you have currently can feed the system, looking at just historical demands. But since well 2 is a lower capacity, it does get pretty tight just overall, having the capacity of the system covered, with just that 80 gallons per minute if something happened to well 3. So, kind of moving from that, it is an older well 2. Well 2 was put in 45-ish years ago. So that is a little bit of an age concern there.
How old is well 3?
Well 3 was in 2002, around then, so just over 20 years old. But so looking at all of those components as a whole, we put together kind of some short-term recommendations and then some longer-term recommendations to start thinking about or looking at. So alternative 1, I guess our first short-term recommendation is to kind of increase some system flushing, trying to keep the water moving through the system.
flushing the system more than twice a year that currently happens. And then also maybe just altering how the tower operates, to keep water moving through the system, keep anything from potentially settling out. As this is occurring in just some isolated areas, it looks like throughout the community. So just trying to keep water moving through those areas. So that's, I guess, the first recommended step, just to see if that would make a difference with those complaints.
Can you be more specific about what you mean by altering the water movement? And what more specifically would that mean?
So it's flushing it more often than twice per year, seeing if,
The second thing you said.
oh, so the water tower may be shortening how much water stays in the tower, so the well runs more often. Keep water flowing from the well to the tower. Just trying to keep anything suspended throughout portions of the pipe where it may be settling out.
So don't keep as much in the tower elevation will be lower to keep it flushing more, is that what you're?
Not necessarily lower, but a shorter operating range at that same level could be a potential.
During periods of low use, that well doesn't run, and that water kind of just sits stagnant in the well. So when that well first turns on, there's potential that you have a little bit of accumulation of material or sediment in there that some of the complaints are showing up kind of on that first run coming out of the well house area. So keeping that refreshed and healthy, that is potential.
In other words, we're refreshing the tower water more often.
And then I guess also associated with that alternative, getting some more samples throughout, like if there is a complaint, maybe trying to get some more iron and manganese samples just to see if those are causing concern, maybe get some more long-term trends just of what could be happening. If there's any correlation between if it was flushing or sitting stagnant or just what could be happening at those points.
Can you tell me what manganese is?
Maybe it's, I guess,
Another mineral similar to iron. It's a natural compound in the soil that will precipitate out of the water, which can produce that red brown.
Makes our filter back. It's like,
So you have that in your home.
which we never had those as well.
So I guess after that potential alternative, if additional flushing and changing operations does not make a difference, there is a potential to add a chemical feed system for phosphate. So it'd be in addition to the chlorine, it'd be feeding phosphate, to help keep manganese and iron in suspension, keep it from settling out, of the water. And then with this, again, additional flushing may be needed to prevent any of those solids that are prevented from accumulating, just to keep them from settling out. Just if that were to happen, with addition of phosphate.
So that's not in the system now?
Phosphate?
Yeah.
That would be something else to add if, additional operational changes did not. And then, so those are the two kind of short-term recommendations I would say to try first. And then an alternative we put together that just based on the age of well two, we would still recommend to start planning for is a new well and well house. During this time, we could look at alternative well sites, just to see during the testing if kind of what the water quality would be, if it would be similar to well one or closer to well 2 and 3. So you kind of get a little bit better of an idea of what it would be to the system. And then also trying to target additional flow instead of the 80 gallons per minute too. So that could be looking at the same site or additional sites throughout the village.
Do we know how deep those wells are now?
I think it was in the water reliability study, I don't know off the top of my head what it is though.
I have it back to the office. Let's see,
good guy to have out there.
And then a fourth alternative, that would be a long-term alternative for if these concerns kept coming up, would be a larger filtration plant, to filter out the iron and manganese. So that one is quite a bit of capital cost, and a lot more operational effort, so that would kind of be after a new well was implemented too, just if water quality concerns kept coming up, that could be something to look into. But that does come with a lot more cost to it.
Have you had other communities that have done the chemical feed system and had results? Like, do we know if this is going to potentially fix the problem?
So we would, as part of the design of the chemical feed system, we do a little bit more water quality sampling and review that with the chemical supplier. And now it doesn't fully remove the manganese or iron from the system, you don't filter it out, so it's still in the system eventually, it will settle out, we'll have to keep flushing. But it does show improved appearance, but there's still potential for it.
And I guess something that did come up is in the water reliability study, for the flushing, there are, and we didn't account for it in some of our cost estimates, but it was, the dead end mains. So looping those dead end mains can help improve flushing efficiencies, just being able to reverse some of the flow in the areas. So that was something that was, noted was in the reliability study.
Water tends to build up in a certain direction. If you can get the flushing to pull the opposite way, it'll help strip off some of that material that's built up inside the pipe. But when you have a dead end, that water can really only go one way. So, common challenge with a small town with limited roads, you only have so much you can do, but
If you look on the difference between a new well and the filtration system, which is more expensive?
filtration system by far. So I think, where do you have that there?
I'd rather have another well where we had problems, both of them went down for some reason. We got another one that will still pump water.
Right here in our study
I
is,
don't like having to do.
for a new well and a new well house, if we were to change locations and everything, 1.7 million, it says, in the filtration system, it says 4.6.
Well, we might not need to put a building.
Right.
Because we got a water tower up there with a vacant building sitting right next to it.
Correct.
So you can do
Because I
a
mentioned to Brian,
submersible well.
never got a response from
I
him.
know.
I think these are pretty conservative numbers. We tried to plan for a lot of unknowns with where that well's gonna be, how do we get it plumbed in, all that. Kind of the first step there would be starting to do some exploratory drilling and siting of that well, to figure out where a potential good water source could be.
I think, if I remember right, that end of town, most of the wells were rock walls.
It was deeper bedrock.
Is that good or bad? That's a good thing.
Yeah, as long as they're protected from a layer there, it's usually a pretty good thing.
So I guess, our recommendation would be, to start the, operational flushing and maybe trying that tower first and seeing how that or what impact that has on the complaints, before moving on to the further alternatives. And then planning for a new well in the future.
Kind of chatted about this with Brian, the operator, on some of the additional flushing, and, something he said, we probably do. Obviously, might have a little bit more operations expense in the interim here, for that time. As Lauren said, looking forward to planning for that well down the road.
Rest around now.
Do we need grants or something to do the new well?
Wouldn't hurt.
It would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Grants, rural development, anything like that, I'm looking into.
There is money that, I'm looking, DEA kind of looking at how on some of that. I can't guarantee how much yet, but I got to kind of
Right.
trying to. As a capital,
a couple different funding sources at the end of the letter about the drinking water state revolving fund has been one of the primary ones, and then USDA rural development for the two kind of primary subsidized funding programs. And we can certainly look at options for certain scoring criteria for some of those funding programs. We can look at potentially how you may score and qualify for some of that. Recent years have been pretty competitive with a lot of lead service running placements have been a pretty competitive program. There has been some grant dollars available through those programs.
Thank you.
Honestly, this isn't something we have to decide on right this minute.
Yeah, we're not gonna make that kind of financial decision tonight.
We'll definitely start doing more of the flushing, like you said, the first alternative.
And we'll be in constant contact with Brian, and we'll stay in touch, and we can come back and talk about other next steps as far as exploring a well site, or what that chemical feed design may look like. So we'll work closely with Brian as we move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, another public time.
So it's interesting to say, you know, we haven't had good luck with, to hear someone say we haven't had good luck with grants when actually, like, the fire department has excellent luck with grants. You're getting all kinds of stuff paid for. So it could be in the approach, it could be in how things are being written up. I mean, think widely. It's an awful lot of money. So speaking of the water line, I was going through the water line extension up to Stock Road. I was going through old minutes, and the first minutes that are on the website here, the last that I could look up was January 2017, and this was already on the radar. This was already well known. Mr. Denney was already in negotiations about this stuff. So that is how long this has been going on here. Yeah, but here's the thing. What if 2 years into it, let's say 2018 or so, you guys have been like, you know what, maybe we need to get one of those firms, big firms, municipal law firms down in Troy to take over this. Because I gotta tell you, Mr. Denney, I'm not saying this to be insulting, but it's, township officials have said he's a lightweight. A lot of people have said maybe he's not the person for this job, and all these years later, we are still not there, right? So maybe think a little differently, okay? This is a small town, there's a lot of information out there in the big world. I wonder too if in this water line extension, anyone has
Said it wasn't, I've had screenshots.
listen, I screenshotted it fresh from the website at that moment. I don't know why it's coming up for you and not coming up for me, because that just doesn't make absolutely no sense website-wise. So, but again, you could put it on social media. That would be great. Anybody notice there were snowmobiles in the park again? I drove by today. They probably were there last night or yesterday based on the snowfall. Still can't even take care of that problem, right? And they were going right by the sledding hill. They came through Deer Ridge Run, went by the sledding hill where little kids go out and sled anytime of the day or night that they want to. So again, can we take care of some problems out here, get a sign up, start letting people know that the kind of stuff is just not acceptable here? We have some folks up here who live right next to that area. I don't know how you couldn't hear them go right by your house. If anyone was home, but you know, this stuff just keeps going on and on and on. So, I forgot where I was going. I've been sick. But it's just incredible to me to watch this go on for years and years and years. And again, maybe Mr. Denney, you should think about, hey, advising them to get a different law firm. There are other ways of thinking. There are other ways of doing things out there. We should think of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I've heard the accusations against our village clerk. She just sent me the screenshots from the last 2 months. I don't know what screens you're looking at, but man, you can sit down right now because I'm talking.
Well, I can stand up and listen to you.
So, we've got the screenshots. You've been accusing her for 2 months for not doing this. She actually does it. She takes screenshots of it. I don't know what the deal is with your computer, but she is.
It was my phone and my computer.
don't interrupt me. I do not ever interrupt you. So, I work at the pleasure of this village. I will say this, the settling group, I don't believe has had a real great motivation to get this thing resolved. It means millions of dollars for them to spend. If they can run the clock out, then they don't have to spend those millions of dollars. That's a lot of motivation to go slow. We are a village of less than 600 people. Maybe those companies can afford to make big mistakes like that. We cannot. We cannot afford to make mistakes that big. So I have no apologies for being methodical about protecting my village and making sure there's appropriate provision there to make sure that they are protected. They have a lot of motivation. I keep hearing noises from the EPA that somehow they're coming up to certain deadlines, which I assume mean they have less scrutiny from the EPA, not more. The EPA tries to get involved and poke people in the ribs and say we need to move forward, but they always admit we really have no enforcement power here, which means that all they can do is make noise. And so I don't think they have a great deal of motivation to move forward. We can move fairly quickly. They have like 10 to 15 or 20 companies that they have to get permission from, and it's like herding cats for them. So, if I cannot protect my village, with the proposal that we have on the table, I will not recommend it. I don't care how much people whine, I don't care how much, the EPA says, I don't care what anybody says. My partner used to say there's only two things you have to do to be a good lawyer: return your phone calls and protect your client. And if I cannot protect this village, I will not recommend it.
Anybody else for public time? If not, I'll entertain one more motion.
I'll make that motion, please.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Thank you, everybody, for coming out on such a cold, blue night.
Yes.
Thank you.
I forgot to do the other one. Oh, good, good. Oh, they're not, okay.
This is our website for it, right? So it would be, if there's some kind of issue then going on with the website, not presenting that information to the public. And they are not just accusations, I do have the screenshots of that.
Can you pull up right now so I can see, because I'm curious, no, I'm
I'll
not.
show you, let me stop the recording and I will show you.
Meeting's been adjourned.
I can tell you.